Hello, welcome to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We are so happy to have you here with us tonight. You know, all of our information is on goingsolomedia.com. So just go right to that website. You'll find all of our wonderful hosts and guests their information is there, and we hope that you'll enjoy that. I am Cece Shatz. I'm the Doyenne of Relationship Building. I'll be your host here tonight on Going Solo with Cece Show. And those of you that don't know me, I am a relationship, divorce, dating, and a life coach. And so, I really try to help people move them through some of the difficult, spots in their lives. And we do that right here on the Going Solo Network. So I am very excited about bringing one of our very special guests here with us tonight, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to really live through the moments that we have, right, to get to the other side. And this guest knows it so well. We have Jessica with us. Let's bring her up. Hello, Jessica. How are you?
I'm good, Cece. Thank you so much for having me.
It is so great having you. We have Jessica Herzberg here. We're going to talk about living life happily after divorce. And now I know you guys are going to laugh at that, say, yeah, that is impossible. But Jessica is going to show you that it most certainly is. She is a mom of two. She's living life happily after divorce. She's spent a career as a network news TV producer, and she's been nominated for an Emmy and along with many other awards. And we're so happy to have her with us today. She's currently with NBC News. She has launched two businesses that align with her passions and beliefs: Be Hip and Be Healthy, which is focused on your personal wellness and the science of essence oils, and the exEXPERTS, right? And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about where you were at one time, which was kind of in the trenches of divorce, right? And so often we feel that, and then moving forward. So tell us a little bit about your background and how where you were in the trenches there.
Well, I met my husband very young. I was 18 years old in college. He was a couple of years older than me. And so literally the summer after I graduated college, we had gotten engaged, and I was married by 23. And so we, in a sense, really kind of grew up together. I was fairly close with his parents. He was fairly close with mine. I mean, we just went through these like formative years together. And we didn't have kids for 8 or 9 years or so after getting married. But when we split up and I was 36, at that point, we'd been together literally half my life. And so it was a huge adjustment, adding on to the fact that he had an affair. And so all of like the, humiliation and feelings that go into a relationship where you have dealt with infidelity, on top of the fact of like my identity and who am I now, even if I'm not with him, because we had been together for so long. That was really how I knew myself. I did have this career, thankfully for me. That's really was a huge part of my personal process in being able to move forward, that I had something else to focus on. But it was a really hard place to be for a long time. Subsequently, and we can get into it, I can answer all of your questions, but I subsequently did get married again for a second time about 9 years later, and went through a second divorce. Totally different circumstances, just great guy, not compatible enough in the end. I had 2 very amicable divorces. That's also possible sometimes for people, depending on who your partner is. But I really am living proof that like there is light at the end of the tunnel, and you can be living your best life and you can come out happy on the other side. It's just really hard to see that for a while in the beginning.
Yeah, it certainly is. And that's why I thought it would be such a great topic for us, because as we're moving through here now to the holidays, we're going to be coming up to them. And it's a really tough time for people, and they don't see the other side of it. They get pretty depressed. And so we want to let them know that there is light at the end of it, and that your life will shift and change, and you will become a different person, and you'll look at life totally differently, I believe. And so I want to thank you for so much for sharing your story and for all that you do, because I think you've connected with your good friend TH and you guys do your business together. We've had her on the show. She's a delightful person. So if you guys need to, if you haven't catched that show, make sure you listen to it. It's with TH and myself, and it's a really terrific show. But again, we talk about your business where you really are, I think you're really trying to connect people and trying to enlighten them to various different, situations that they might come across and handle. And you do a lot of this through your blogs and things like that. So share a little bit with us that website so people will know about it.
Sure. So the website is exEXPERTS. It's spelled out exEXPERTS.com. And the idea of exEXPERTS came to TH and I because our story is also somewhat interesting. She and my first husband were actually best friends from high school. So TH and I also met in college when she had come up to campus to visit us over a Halloween weekend. Ultimately, when we had all graduated college and we were all living in New York City, she was with her soon-to-be fiance and husband. And the four of us just hung out all the time. And we became all four best friends. We got engaged within a month of each other. We got married within a month of each other. She started her family a couple of years sooner than I did, but our sons were born a week apart. We did everything together. We were best friends. Our husbands were best friends. And then we found out within a week of each other that both of our husbands had been cheating on us and covering for each other, traveling the world with their girlfriends as couples while we were home working and taking care of the kids. So we went through our divorces at the exact same time. Like I said before, we were young. My kids were 2 and 4. She had 3 kids under 7. And I don't know how we would have really made it through had we not had each other. The analogy that I often use is it's like having a newborn and everybody that you know is like, how's the baby? How's the baby? And really, they just want to hear you say the baby's great. But if you have a friend who also has a baby, then you're like, how many diapers did you change today? How many hours did they sleep last night? Like, how many bottles did you go through? You're in the weeds with them. They want to know all of the details. And that was what it was like for TH and I with our divorces. Like, nobody wanted to hear really what was going on with our divorces. Our loved ones wanted to make sure that we were doing all right. But with TH and I, we're like, what did your lawyer tell you today? Hey, did you know this? Like, are you making sure that you have this in your agreement? So we were really in the weeds with each other. And we would say to each other, we have to figure out a way to help other people go through this because we are so lucky that we have each other going through this at the exact same time. How can we pay it forward to other people? We were like, we should do a talk radio show. We had all of these ideas, and we had 2 very different divorces, even though we went through it at the same time. I had a very amicable divorce. TH's was very acrimonious. So we also had a lot of different perspective on things to share. And ultimately, hers dragged on for 4 years. She really didn't want to have to live at 24/7 outside of the courtroom. So a number of years later, right as kind of COVID was coming, we revisited the idea, and exEXPERTS was born, and the Divorce Etc. podcast was born, which is the podcast we host. And it really covers all of the things: money issues, legal issues, custody issues, relationships, getting back on your feet after divorce. What do you do with all of your stuff? So the website is really kind of the home base for everything, but you can find the podcast on every podcast platform. And our whole mission is to help educate and support other people going through divorce. I'm sure you know, Cece, like if you Google divorce and you try to look stuff up online, there's so much information out there, you don't even know where to turn. And everyone has an agenda. If you're looking up an article of like, how do I find a divorce lawyer? All of the things you're going to read are written by divorce lawyers who want you to hire them as their divorce lawyer.
True.
We have no skin in the game in that regard. We're going to tell you what questions you should ask when you're meeting with divorce lawyers. We obviously have our own exEXPERTS community of over 150, 200 experts that we have brought in, that we personally vet, that we talk to and have learned in order to offer resources and education for people going through divorce. We just want to help other people, honestly.
Yeah,
And
I
help
think
them.
that's beautiful. Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I know, like when I first went through my divorce, which is why I'm here today doing this, is that there wasn't anything out there. There was
Right.
nothing. And so like today, you're just inundated. So I'm not even sure which is better, not having anything and then having so much that you have to weed through what's
Yeah.
really, the content to really find out if it's really going to be good for you. And so, yeah, I think that is very, very important to have a place where you can go and connect, and be able to understand. And I love the idea of talking with people because, like, connecting with other like-minded individuals. I've been always a, so proponent to that because I think that that's very, very important because nobody knows what you're going through unless they're going through it or have been through it.
That's right.
And so nobody really gets that. And so you talk to your family and all of them, and they don't. They want you to be better, and like you said, they ask you, but they really don't want to hear the answer. Are you feeling good today? How's things going? And they really don't want to hear, I've really had this bummed out day and it's been the worst day. And, I talked to my attorney and everything's in the toilet and I have to, they have not a clue. They just don't want to hear that. They just want you to say, yeah, everything's going good.
Well, and also, I mean, the truth is sometimes the people closest to us, while they may have good intentions, are like really toxic with things. I mean, listen, my husband cheated on me. I had 2 small toddlers, and my mom's telling me like, what a jackass he is. Like, I already know that doesn't help me to move forward in a positive way to the next place. So like all of the people in your life feel like if you're getting divorced, now's the time they can all tell you how much they didn't like your ex or, why they suck. And like
right.
that is just, it's just not helpful. So TH and I talk to people a lot about the fact that sometimes your inner circle when it comes to your divorce isn't really your actual inner circle in your life. It's easier sometimes to talk to people, like you said, who've been through it, who understand kind of what you're going through, but also are coming from a place of no preconceived notions, no judgment, just there to listen and help support you. When you're talking to people that know you so well, they do have preconceived notions about what you should do and how you should behave and why, they're wrong about this and, how you need to do that. Like sometimes it's a lot of noise and it makes it more challenging to be able to like find your sort of inner peace and figure out what your road is to
Right.
getting through it.
Yeah, because sometimes even those that you talk to that have been through it, their situation was totally different than what you're going through.
Right.
And so they'll give you this advice and it's not tailored towards you. And so then you're like, oh boy, this isn't gonna work for me and that kind of thing. So it's really, really hard. It's great to have a site like yours to be able to go and shows like yours and ours and to be able to go and listen to so that they can kind of sort through all of the noise to figure out what is really good for them. And I've often said, take what you want and throw the rest away. I mean, and you'll listen to something too, Jessica, I'm sure you'll find this. They'll listen to something and then later, and they'll think, okay, this isn't really for me. But then later on down the road, something will happen and they'll trigger and say, oh yeah, remember that show that said this, and they'll go back and listen to that,
Right.
And so, it's like a slow moving train and you have to just kind of keep on going with it. But let's talk a little bit about, moving forward and that, living our life happily ever after. So what are some of the steps that one can take? And we'll do our break and come back with a little bit more of that. But what are some of the steps that people can take to be able to start gaining a little bit of that, happiness again?
I mean, I think that there were a number of different things that helped me. I mean, I feel like one of the things that I am able to do is I'm very pragmatic about things and I am able to compartmentalize. And I know not everyone can do that, but I know that people can learn to do that. And I think that for me, being able to kind of take a step back and say, listen, I don't want to make it like I didn't feel sorry for myself. I mean, I spent the first weekend after like I had said I want a divorce in bed crying for 48 hours. So we've all been down in the dumps, but I was also able to say, I'm not the only person whose relationship didn't work out for one reason or another. And I was sad that my kids were going to grow up in a divorced home because my parents are still married 50+ years later. And so I didn't know personally what that actually was going to be like for the kids, but I was able to not be consumed with divorce guilt. And I think that being able to keep perspective of like, this is not the worst thing in the world that's ever going to happen. My parents were very sad that I was getting divorced. And it was hard for me sometimes to feel like I had to kind of help my mother through her sadness and grief over my divorce. Like, I only had so much bandwidth and I needed to really spend it on myself and not like helping my mom get through it. But I remember one time, like her being so sad and saying, "Oh, and you poor thing. And I can't, I'm so sorry this is happening to you." And I said, this is just at the time, this is 15 years ago, a little kid in one of my child's elementary school classes in like first grade had died of leukemia a couple of weeks before. And my mother is like in her like utter despair over the fact that I was getting divorced. And I was like, Mom, like, get a grip. Someone's family that we know just lost a child. Millions of people get divorced all around the world every day. I'm going to get through this. This is not the worst thing ever. So we should all be able to take a moment and sit in our sadness when we need to. I'm not saying that anybody should ignore the grief, but like, it was helpful for me to kind of look at the bigger picture of life. Sometimes people get divorced. There's nothing wrong with me for that happening. And my kids are going to be good if I'm good. You really have to focus on yourself. Kids pick up the energy around them. And I know that there is a lot of stigma around divorce, which is one of the goals for TH and I through the Divorce Etc. podcast and through exEXPERTS to like destigmatize divorce in our society and in today's day and age, because the idea that people are like, oh my God, your family was ripped apart and I feel so bad for your kids. They're going to have to go back and forth and they're not going to know, where they should be and how to navigate this. And I'm kind of like, my kids are going to do what I tell them to do, and they're going to grow up. That's going to be their normal life, and they're not going to know any differently, and they're going to be fine because I'm going to be fine. You have to just be able to like use your own strength and energy, even when you think you don't have the strength and energy. I mean, that's really key. Like when you're really feeling low, just think about all of the people in the world, even whatever celebrities that you know of, that you admire. Like, people get divorced all the time. And if they can do it, you can do it, and you can come out good on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you said about, looking at the bigger picture, because sometimes when we get, down in the trenches of it, we're not looking at the bigger picture. We're not looking at the bigger picture of our life, of our children, of where we can go from there. And we kind of get stuck in that. And so I think that's very, very important that you said that, is to definitely do that. It's one thing I think that we really have to do, is look at the bigger picture. And also, the thing we get caught up with, maybe feeling guilty because we weren't enough or we weren't something like that, which is totally not the case, because we can't control someone else, right? We can't control their behavior, their thoughts, or anything about them. And so if they choose to step out of the relationship, that's not something we honestly can control.
That's right. I agree with that completely. But I also feel like even for people who are coming out of, through a divorce where there wasn't any infidelity and feeling all of the guilt in general, just like about parenting and your kids, and now you're not going to have them all the time. Like, my feeling was my kids deserve to have a great relationship with both me and their dad. And the best thing for them in our situation was going to be 50-50 custody. And so I was not going to feel guilty about the times that my kids were with their dad and that they weren't with me. I mean, let's be honest. Married couples are not in their kids' face 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all the time. It's like people sometimes sort of forget, like, oh, you're divorced and it must be so hard because they're not with you all the time. Like, I don't know any families who are literally with their kids all the time every day. Most people I know are 1 or 2 spouse working households that have long hours and are leaving and are also utilizing daycare, school, nannies, things like that. You know, the mother isn't at every soccer game. The father isn't at every school play. Like, we divide and conquer all the time. So it's just done differently, I think, when people get divorced. And I just think we really have to absolve ourselves of the guilt. I can't feel guilty for the fact that my kids are getting to spend a weekend with their dad. That's great for them. And it gives me time off.
Yeah, I really do. I mean, I think it teaches our kids a little bit of resilience. It teaches them independence. And also sometimes I wonder if there is a little blessing there, because like you said, well, they're with their father for that weekend. So normally maybe they would be playing golf or they would be doing something else. And they're not really there present as much as they really should, nor, you know, maybe us. And so when we do have that weekend with them, then we savor that, you know.
That's right.
We spend that time with them. And so sometimes I think we get a little bit more one-on-one because we realize the importance of it, because we're not just going through life nilly-willy and thinking, you know, time is of you know, just there for us.
Right.
So, yeah, so absolutely. Well, you are a delight, and I want to thank you so much for being on the show here with us. The time is going by very quickly. We're going to have to take a quick break, but before we do, I want to make sure that you guys contact her. And now I have I'm not sure if I had your email correct. Is it?
That's right. Jessica at exEXPERTS.com. Yep.
Okay. And then also the website is exEXPERTS, and that's exEXPERTS.com. So
correct.
You guys go and check that out and contact her and let her know that you saw her on the show here today. And if you got any questions for her, definitely ask her, because, you know, she can gear the podcast that she does around that, or maybe she's already done a podcast on it. So It's something that you could actually listen to. So we're going to be right back. We're going to talk more about this, living our life happily. We're going to talk about that. And we want all of you to do that here. This is Going Solo with Cece. I am Cece Shatz, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm John Thomas. I want to share with you a professional products and services directory we call Going Solo Directory, and you need to check this out. If you want exposure to your business or are seeking professional product or services, this directory has it all. And that membership, for the many special features, you get the benefit of a worldwide exposure with a 40-minute video interview on an international business show showcase. All this for just one low annual fee. For more information, contact GoingSoloDirectory.com.
Welcome back. We are on Going Solo with Cece. I am Cece Shatz, the Doyenne of Relationship Building, and we are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. Those of you that don't know, that is our radio station, WGSN, our call letters, and then our website is goingsolomedia.com. So just check that out. All of our wonderful hosts and guests are on there, and all of our great shows you can connect that way. Of course, we're on every platform I think imaginable. It seems like we're on like 58 different platforms. We're on Roku. We want to thank you for listening to us. Last time I checked this week, we were at 5.8 million. I want to thank you so much for listening to us because of you, we're able to keep the show going. And we just really want to reach out to you and tell you how appreciated we are of you. And then also we're on all the podcast platforms, all the major ones. So wherever you listen, just go to the Going Solo Media or Going Solo Network or WGSN, and you'll find us. So anyhow, let's get back to our guest today because we've got a wonderful guest, Jessica Herzberg, and we're talking about living life happily after divorce. And so Jessica's been in the trenches of divorce. She knows what it's like. She knows how to move forward with that. She's got a wonderful website, exEXPERTS. It's exexperts.com. She works out with her wonderful friend TH. We had her on the show here. And it's a truly a wonderful it's a free online resource to help everyone navigate through the divorce. And so check that out. We want you to definitely do that because it's very, very worth it. She's got a wonderful podcast too that you do with TH, and it's been very successful helping those, of course, traveling through divorce and relationship loss. So that's very important to us to make sure that we share these good content and these good shows that you guys can listen to. So let's talk a little bit further. First part of the show, if you guys missed it, you need to go back and listen to it because we talked about really looking at the big picture of your life, thinking about it and not in such a small way as far as just divorce, not thinking about, that it's your fault, whose fault, whatever. Also, really savor the moments that you have with your children, with your, as you're starting to move forward in your life, and really be present. I think that was a big key that I realized, and I think maybe you too, Jessica, is that you realize that what you do is you live in that very moment and savor that moment that you have. And so as you grow and you move forward, you start collecting those moments, right? And it starts getting into, you feel like your life is growing and it's developing into something that you want. And that's the key, I think, for people. What I always felt, Jessica, was missing was that transition from a relationship loss to really developing and stepping into this new life that you want for yourself. And I know that you're where you're at, and you probably wouldn't be where you're at if you had stayed married, so your life has changed tremendously. Mine has changed tremendously. And so this is what we want to share with people, is to concentrate on their lives and the growing of that versus of what the pain that they're feeling in that. So maybe you can share a little bit more with us to help those that are traveling through this difficult time.
I think that, the pain, the grief, the sadness, the sort of stages of mourning your relationship is all valid. And I think that everyone needs to know, like, it's okay to be there. I think the balance that we all have to find is kind of where can you draw the line between being able to healthfully in a healthful way mourn the loss of your relationship and also be able to look forward at the opportunity that's being presented to you. There are too many people that are stuck in the anger and the resentment over the circumstances of their divorce. People who cannot see past, being pissed off because of what happened. And that, in my opinion, is going to be detrimental to your emotional growth through your divorce. You can be bitter or you can be better. And if you're stuck where you are and blaming everything on the other person, and blaming the other person for whatever circumstances you find yourself in, like that is not a positive way to be able to move forward. TH and I talk a lot about like the idea of regret, the idea of making mistakes and everything that goes along with that. And my personal philosophy is like, I don't really have any regrets. I feel like I made choices in my life with the facts and the circumstances that were available to me at the time. I got married when I did to who I did because of the relationship that we had when we were very young. I don't think that it was realistic for me to anticipate that 18 years down the line, he was going to cheat on me. I don't regret getting married. I'm able to look at our relationship and say, yeah, the last 2 or 3 years sucked, but that doesn't negate the first great 15 years that we had together. I know that's not everyone's story, and I know that everyone's story is different, but I really feel like it's important to kind of take stock of where you started and where you ended. Like the idea to me that people love each other so much that you walk down the aisle and that you know, give yourself to this other person in marriage, and then you see how ugly some of these relationships end and how ugly some of these divorces are. Like it's amazing to me that it can get to that point. And I think we're all responsible for that. I don't take responsibility for my husband cheating on me. I take responsibility that yes, things were deteriorating in our marriage and neither one of us knew enough or acted in a way that could have potentially saved our marriage. We didn't go to marriage counseling until literally the very end. And like, we didn't maybe take the steps towards that. I think though, for everyone out there who's like, well, you know, what did you do wrong? It makes your husband cheat, which is
crazy.
Like that's another conversation in itself, that's where some people are coming from.
Mhm.
But I feel like, I don't know, cheating is a line. And no matter how bad your relationship is, it's your choice to cross that line. So I don't take responsibility in that, but I can acknowledge like, okay, the communication definitely broke down in our marriage. And so ultimately things didn't work out. I feel like I'm okay with that though. Like other things that have gone on to happen in my life never would have happened
Mhm.
had we ended up staying together. We could have stayed together and he could have ended up cheating later. He has subsequently cheated in other relationships. Like, you know, you have to recognize that even when things suck and are horrible and you can't understand why you're in this position and you're like, woe is me, because how did I find myself here and how did this happen to me? And we all have those moments and it's
Mhm.
okay to have those moments. But the key to that is moments. You can't live your life like that. Woe is me. And how did I get here? Like, get yourself out of it. You at some point you have to snap out of it. You have to figure out how you're going to focus to move forward. That's kind of the philosophy that I have. I feel like I really do think everything happens for a reason. And I really do think that things happen the way that they're supposed to. That doesn't mean that everything in life is great. There's tragedy everywhere, every day, like real tragedy. I mean, think about our world right now that we're living in and what's going on, you know, around the world. It's tragedy. I can't explain that. I'm not the person who's going to be like, this is God's message for why there's a war over here and why there's a war over here. That's not what I mean. I just mean that when I was looking for a job and I was bummed that one of them didn't pan out that I really thought was going to, a couple of months later, I got a job that was so much better, that I was so much happier with, that I never would have had if the first one had actually worked out. I don't know why the first one didn't work out. I couldn't understand it at the time, but now it totally worked out the way that it should have. So I think it's like finding the balance of, for especially for everyone listening, like to know, I'm not saying that I have a Pollyanna life. I do walk around with rose colored glasses. I am an eternal optimist. I'm an insanely positive person. That's how I wake up in the morning. And it's a choice for me to live my life like that. I want to believe that people are good. I want to take people at face value, and I want to believe what they're telling me. And that may be naive, but I don't know. I've made it 51 years so far. And yeah, like, okay, some shit's happened, but like for the most part, I'm still standing on two legs and I'm doing okay. I think that you have to be able to not take it with a grain of salt, because divorce is a very traumatic event in your life. But you have to know that, you know, in 6 months from now, you're going to be a little bit better. And then in a year from now, you're going to be even better than that. And then in 2 years from now, you're going to be better than that. You have to give yourself the opportunity to grow, because your only other choice is to get stuck being angry all the time with a chip on your shoulder. And you're going to make yourself miserable. You're going to make your kids miserable. You're going to have a terrible relationship with your ex. Like, move on. Move on and take advantage of everything that life has to offer, because now at least you have an opportunity to do it on your terms with everything that you've learned from the choices that you've already made in your past. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very
Sorry.
good. No, I love it. I absolutely love it. And I applaud you for that, because I think that that is exactly you have a choice, right? You have a choice to live your life how you want to. And so you can, you know, put on the rose-colored glasses. If you even have to do it for a little bit every day, put them on, and being able to think positive that maybe, you know, something bigger and better is going to be in your life as you move forward. And I agree with that. I mean, I would not be here today on this network, nor would this network be here if it wasn't for what I had to go through previously. And I also feel that's part of our healing, right? When we start to look back on our relationships and we start to understand the part we played in the demise of it. You know,
Right.
when we start understanding that, I'm not saying we take ownership of bad behavior or anything like that, but there's elements within the relationship we could have done maybe different, or that maybe we could have seen what was happening and that we chose maybe not to, or whatever it might very well be. But when we start to understand that, then we start to heal, and we can move forward, and we can change ourselves and be able to be better in the next relationships that we form, because we don't want a pattern, right? We don't want that. And when people that are stuck, then what happens is they get stuck in this pattern.
That's right.
And that keeps happening. So their relationships and more relation. It doesn't even matter. It might not even be a romantic relationship. It's just all relationships start turning negative and sour and all of that. And so, you know, you want to be able to move forward in a very positive way, but you want to do it slowly, and you want to be able to grow as you're doing it and actually enjoy it along the way. You know, savor some of those great moments that you have, and some of those great opportunities. You know, I've often said that, you know, God will open a door for me, but I decide I have to climb through the window. And so I make it a little harder on myself than what I should, but I get through that window, I get to the other side and open the doggone door. You know what I mean? So it's just the way it is. But you are a delight, and we just love having you here with us.
Thank you.
It is so great. And, you know, I love it that you just tell it the way it is, you know? You don't sugarcoat it. I mean,
I don't.
Yeah.
And I have to say, honestly, like, that also helps me in my own life. Like, I don't sugarcoat it. It sucks. You know, you have to climb through all the muck to be able to come through clean on the other side. And it can take a while. And, you know, it's going to be 2 steps forward and 1 step back always. But you have to just persevere, because you really can grow and learn so much from where you've been. And why not take the second opportunity, you know, for your act 2? Take what you've learned and move forward and be able to use it in a way that's going to make you so much happier.
Yeah, I think we become better people. I really do. I think sometimes through the heartache and through the difficult things. I mean, one benefit with the divorce diet, right? You have a divorce. I always say the divorce diet, because we lose weight when we're going through divorce, and so there are benefits to
That's
some
right.
things. But, you know, we have to just take those things, and we just have to grow from them. And I think it really truly does. You know, the resilience and all of that we experience, it just makes us a better person, and it makes us being compassionate for other people, which is very vital, very important in life. And, we all need a little bit of that. Well, we're probably going to have to close out the show here, but I want to give you the opportunity to share any last moments, any last words that you'd like to share with the audience. And so I just wanted to give you that opportunity before we close out the show.
Yeah, I just want to say to everyone listening, like, you're not alone. There are a lot of us that have gone through divorce. And although the circumstances are different, a lot of the feelings that we go through are similar. It is like the stages of grief to an extent. And oftentimes hearing other people's stories, not in the sense of like misery loves company, but being able to commiserate with people who have been down the road, either that you're going or just, have been down a road. Sometimes it's like you think whatever you're going through was so bad, and then you hear a story like mine and TH's, and you're like, oh my God, I thought my situation was bad. At least I didn't have that. So there is something to be said for like, knowing that there are communities out there that can help support you and that really understand where you're coming from. And I think that that's a huge piece of the puzzle of being able to move on through divorce. Don't feel like you have to do it alone, because you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I want to make sure that we give over the information so that you can contact Jessica at exEXPERTS.com. That's EXEXPERTS.com. So make sure you check out the website, send her an email, any questions that you might have. She would, I'm sure, be more than happy to help you out, answer those. And again, make sure you check out the other show that we did with TH, because I think it was a very worthwhile show and to listen to, and she was a delight. And I want to thank you ladies for all that you do. It's tremendous. And thank you so much. And you know what? We're talking about living life happily after divorce, and both TH and Jessica are doing that. And so you want to, I think sometimes you just have to walk in someone else's shoes, you just have to do that. And we used to say in the divorce group that I had, it's like, they throw a line and try to help you up, as you get through. And so it's a wonderful thing when you have people that have taken a difficult situation, and not only have they improved their lives as they've moved forward and they've learned, and themselves personally, but they're also helping others along the way. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, you guys, we're going to have to wrap it up. You guys know how to reach me. If you don't, I'm going to share it with you. You just go to goingsolonetwork@gmail.com, goingsolonetwork@gmail.com. Our website again is goingsolomedia.com. And then, of course, always the goingsoloNetwork.com. That's our business, Going Solo Network. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. We are going to be bringing more shows to you, and just listen to Going Solo with Cece again on goingsolomedia.com. Thank you so much, and bye for now.